Hi, and welcome today to our second webinar for National History Day. This webinar is going to be planning your year with National History Day. Today we have, we hope, we have Claudie Thompson from Silver City High School who will be presenting. Unfortunately, there's been a bad thunderstorm down in Silver City and Claudie's internet has been knocked out. So to see whether Claudie's able to come online and join us today. Look, if you're watching from our Hangouts page or from our events page, on the left-hand side of your screen, you'll see a little yellow tab that looks like a luggage label or something. If you click on that for the showcase, you can get a couple of links there. One of the links is for a PDF of a timeline for this year that Claudie's developed for his students. The other link is just general teacher resources for National History Day up on our website at nmhum.org. And I wanted to spend a couple minutes talking about upcoming webinars as well. The next webinar is going to be September 13th. That's going to be choosing categories and topics. If your kids are starting, if your students are starting with History Day, then the first part of History Day is looking at the theme, which this year is Taking a Stand in History. And if you want a History Day theme book, they're available for download for free off the link on the website that's shared under the showcase links. And you can also drop me an email at historyday@nmhum.org and let me know that you would like me to send you one. Send me your address and we will mail you one. We also have some other materials available. We have how to create a historical exhibit, which is a great publication from the National Organization for National History Day. And that's got step-by-step, it's got lesson plans, it's a great resource for students who are planning on doing exhibits. We will also have available, I hope, copies of how to create a historical documentary, which will also be available from us for free. So if you want any of those three publications, the 2017 theme book on Taking a Stand in History, how to create a historical exhibit, or how to create a historical documentary, please drop me, Ellen Dornan, an email at historyday@nmhum.org. So after your students have worked with the theme a little bit and understand the theme, then the next part of their process in developing History Day projects is going to be choosing a category and a topic. So our next webinar on September 13th is going to be choosing a category and a topic, and we'll get into a little bit what sort of categories are best for your classroom, what sort of topics are likely to do well in the contests, and how to help your students narrow down from a broad area of interest like women's history or sports history or space history to a specific topic that fits in with the theme. The other thing that you'll want to know with this webinar, if we can get Claudie to come join us online, is that there is a Q&A tab also on the left-hand side of the screen. So if you would like to ask questions of Claudie, presuming that he gets online, and it looks like he's going to be on just in just a few minutes here. You can use the question and answer tab. It's the Q&A tab. It's a little blue tab. To ask your questions. You can also email me at historyday@nmhum.org. or you can use the YouTube comments section if you're logged into Google to ask a question on YouTube. So I think Claudie's internet's back on, so hopefully we'll get him joining us here in just a minute. So feel free to ask any questions you want. We have a few questions today already in advance from teachers across the state who have asked a few questions about how to adapt the schedule, the National History Day schedule, to their specific needs, such as if you're only teaching a class for one semester and then switching to another class the second semester, or if you have everybody developing History Day projects in your class and only some of them make it to state, what do the rest of them do the rest of the year? Some other questions that we've had are about fundraising, and Claudie can speak to that too. I do want to mention that Claudie is a veteran teacher. He's been teaching History Day longer than anybody I know, and he has been nominated and awarded the Patricia Baring Teacher of the Year Award for excellence in teaching the National History Day curriculum. He's the Senior Teacher of the Year. The Junior Teacher of the Year is Dave Lozano at Mountain View Middle School in Alamogordo. So we're hoping to welcome Claudie. See if we can get him on here. Bear with us for just a minute. And try. We'll try reaching out to Claudie one more time. Again, you can click on the left-hand side of the tab. The little yellow tags for the showcase will bring up the links that we're going to be talking about today. Go ahead and download that PDF right now. It's the NHD timeline for the 2016-2017 school year. And we're welcoming Claudie Thompson from Silver City High School.
Hi.
I'm glad you got on.
Yeah, we were a little worried there for a while. Our internet went down, so but our techs figured it out, I guess.
Perfect timing. All right, I'm going to drop off here and let you go ahead and talk.
Okay, and then if you have, I don't know if you're getting questions on your end or on the chat or whatever, if you need to stop me, just stop me. Or if you want me to explain anything else or in more detail, let me know. Okay, and then we'll go from there. Is that good? Okay, so when Ellen asked me to speak a little bit, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, when she asked me to speak a little bit on staying organized and on track and thinking about putting a PowerPoint or something together, I thought it'd be easier if I just speak about some things. She did have some links for everybody to be able to get to some information that I have up, and I think that will be easier. But let me just break a few things down, okay? First off, I would say, looking at two different areas, it depends a lot if you're competing or if you're not competing. And I know she had asked me if I would speak briefly on that a little bit. So I'll do that. First, I would recommend that if you are doing it in your class, whether it be a New Mexico history class, world history class, whatever it may be, if there is an opportunity for you to compete, to go to one of the competitions, one of the regional competitions, I would encourage you to do so. I think that is probably the best thing for your kids, to be able to get that experience. I think that's very, very important, okay, and that'll help out quite a bit. If you're not competing, all right, and you're just doing it, say, for a grade in class, whatever that may be, it can work as well, but I really think then your grade is going to have to be the motivation for these kids to do the work. I think that's very, very important. And I think even with that, maybe what you could do is have a school competition with your categories, exhibits, documentaries, all the categories that you can compete in NHD, but maybe have a school competition and have teachers as judges or parents as judges, and maybe just give out some small prizes at your school. So those are two ways you could look upon, doing National History Day first before I get into a little bit more of organization. But again, just to reiterate, I really think the kids benefit if they can go to the competition. It's really helpful. Okay, next with that, I think it's very important. The first thing I would probably do to stay organized is have a good, either a course description or put your agenda in your course description. Again, depending on what you're teaching. I don't know if, can I ask you, Ellen, is there some out there that have NHD as a class besides Amy and myself? Do you know? I can't hear you, Ellen. Okay.
There are a few teachers who are doing NHD as a class, and I know we've got a few new teachers this year who are hoping to do NHD at all grade levels, and so they'll be rolling it out and hopefully participating in the contests.
Okay.
But we're just looking to switch to a more hands-on approach to teaching.
Okay, so good, that answered my question. Okay, so let me continue. So whether you are doing it as an NHD class or you're incorporating it in your regular classroom, make sure that the course description has it. I think that's very, very important. So with that, I would make sure you list some objectives. All right, I think that just helps, obviously, and the students know what's expected, whether it's going to be part of the grade or whether you're going to competition. And really, probably the best place to get really good objectives is on the NHD site. There's nothing wrong with just stealing them from there because they're really good. I've incorporated them and then just added some of ours as well. Next, obviously, is if you are doing it in the class, I would make sure that you have some type of rubric with your grading. That's very important to incorporate because we're a competition class here. Basically, ours is simple. There are daily activities, and the lead up to regionals is worth 50% of their grade, and then the competition itself is worth 50%. So if they compete, they're going to get the other half. But you could break that down, obviously, into your classroom if you're not going to compete. That wouldn't be very difficult to do. And then I would make sure if you are, say you are competing, on your course description and rubric and stuff, I don't know if any out there are fundraising. I would make sure to put that on there. I would actually have a parent meeting. I think that's very, very important, whether you're competing or not, because say you are incorporating in your class for a grade and you're not competing, National History Day, it is so much fun, but it's challenging. And I think the parents need to know what they're doing, why they're doing it, how they're going to go about it, and the time that's going to be required. So I would have some type of simple parent meeting. It doesn't mean that all the parents will show up, but obviously at least you're making the effort. I know with mine, the majority of them do show up. And then I think I mentioned a little bit about fundraising. If you are fundraising, we put that in our course description or our rubric as well, just so the kids understand about the importance of fundraising. And I think that helps. This is one thing I get from other teachers that are just starting, whether, again, they're doing it just in the class as part of their grade, or if they're doing it to go to the competition, is that you're going to have to purchase items for the kids, like exhibit boards, discs for documentaries, just, obviously, felt maybe for your board. I mean, there's tons of stuff you're going to have to purchase. And I don't mean that in a negative way, like don't be overwhelmed, but a little bit of fundraising won't hurt. And I'll be honest with you, I'll tell you probably the easiest fundraiser that you could do. And we've done it for years, and it just, I mean, it gets you easy money and fast. It's the world's finest chocolate, the dollar chocolate bars. Matter of fact, yesterday I just ordered like 66 boxes, I believe it was. We do it twice. I'll sell 60 some now, and in about a month I'll sell about 60 some more. And I'll make $3,000 alone on just the selling of those chocolates. And we probably sell them by December, we'll be done. So I'm just saying, because a lot of teachers like, oh, I don't want to fundraise, I don't want, and I've been doing this for quite a long time, and between baseball, which I'm the head baseball coach as well, and fundraising there, and between NHD, the chocolate bars are probably the easiest ones. So I don't know if I'm not being harsh, but there's really not an excuse, to make a little bit of money, and I think that helps. And then field trips, I would put that in your course description. Whether you are doing it for the competition or you're just doing it as a grade, and whether it's mid-high level or high school level, I think it's important, to try to get to a university to do some research. I think, for us, we traveled to New Mexico State, and I know others are thinking, how are we going to travel? How, again, just that little bit of fundraising gets us there, but it's just a great learning experience. And also early on, when we first started NHD here at Silver High School, we asked the parents, hey, would you mind giving up a little bit of money so we could get a bus so we could get to a university? And the parents, they were all for it, because they know their kids are going to get a very important, obviously, learning experience. So I think that's important. And then for you guys as teachers is to make sure that get a parent signature and get a student signature to make sure they understand the responsibility. I wouldn't leave them an out at all. Once you have the parent signature and theirs, it's like you have them. You can always go back and say, you sign this and it's binding and you're going to do this. So I think that's important. I mean, not in a non-threatening way, obviously, but they understand the commitment. Okay, so let me move on. After that, what we do, like the first few days, we do a questionnaire. I would recommend that. And I can give this, I'm sorry, Ellen, I'll have to pass this on to you as well, and you could post it at that same link. But we have a simple questionnaire, and it's just simple things. Let me just read a few questions. But things like, what type of people do you like working with? What type of people do you think like working with you? I even go so far as listing, name some people in the class that you might consider working with, and name some people in the class you do not want to work with. And that, I think that's important. And I tell them that's confidential. Nobody's going to see it but myself. It's not going to get out there. So, and the main thing is I tell them, be honest. So I would do a questionnaire as such. Other things that I have is, what is your goal? So if it's to, help you get an A in the class, or maybe it's to compete and get to state, I have them do that as well. And then I have them put which ones they would be most interested in, whether paper, websites, exhibits, all of that. So I would do we call it a history day self-questioning sheet, and we gather tons of information. You will learn a lot about your kids from that. Okay, so then let me move on to, hang on, I made a few notes here. Okay, to the timeline. And Ellen has this posted, so, and she'll leave you guys the link for this. I'll just briefly mention a few things. First off, with this timeline, I mean, it's very, very helpful. And whether you are doing NHD as a class or for the competition, if you do not have a timeline, I guarantee you kids are just going to try to go around the system and turn in things, you know, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later. And trust me, as most experienced National History Day teachers will tell you, you can't do NHD last minute. You have to be organized, okay? So let me just lead up, and then the rest you can get at the link. But for instance, right now in our class, as a matter of fact, this Friday, the kids have to turn in 5 topics to us. Okay, so that's what we've been working on the first few weeks. They've gone from like 20 topics that they're interested in, and we told them by Friday you have to have it narrowed to 5. And let me take that back. Actually, that was by last Friday. This Friday they have to take those 5 and they have to narrow it to 2. So we're down to 2 topics by this Friday. Then they start delving into more extensive research, so they can decide on which one they want to, you know, obviously use for their project. And an important thing with that, I would recommend with this, don't have the kids, don't have them start selecting groups right now, because what we do is we tell them, no, as an individual, you find topics you're interested in, because then they start getting with a group early and they come up with topics that the majority maybe favor, but they don't want anything to do with, and they won't verbally say that. And then they're stuck in a group where they have no passion for a topic. So I would recommend having them individually decide on topics that they're interested in. Then when they start mentioning people that they would like to work with, have them put the topics together and then start communicating, collaborating on, okay, I like this, no, I don't like this, whatever it may be. I've found that to be much easier. Okay, so then after that, I'll just give you our first 2 due dates, like September 16th, which you could find this sheet again on the link. I have it for all competitors. They have to have a topic chosen. They have to have the category of which they're going to compete. Okay, so either, you know, a documentary, a website, an exhibit, a paper, a performance. They have to have 20 or more sources cited and split up into primary and secondary. Now, we don't have them annotate yet. That'll come later, but we just want the citation. Now, in the meantime, leading up to that, yes, we're giving examples of citations. We're showing them how to do that, okay, as we go. And then we start working September 16th, an outline is due. And then they also have they have to complete 1 interview with a practice judge. Usually that practice judge is, we just get a couple of teachers. And this first practice session is just basically them talking about the topic they chose, it's very informal, really informal, just to start getting used to speaking in front of people. And then, so I'll go over the second due date and then we'll leave it at that. The second due date we have, for example, is October 7th. Okay, am I going too fast, Ellen, or am I good? Okay, so October 7th, and let me just give you an example because we break it down a little bit more there. So all competitors by October 7th, for instance, would have 50 or more sources cited. Now, Ellen did mention something yesterday about some mid-high and some other high school teachers possibly thinking, wow, that's a lot of sources to have. I totally understand that. Yes, you could probably cut ours in half. Okay, what we try to be specific on, we tell the kids, and a lot of people don't know this, but like National History Day really want an annotated bibliography. Well, there's a difference people don't realize between an annotated bibliography and a works cited. And what kids don't realize is an annotated bibliography could be any source that maybe led them to another source, or that they just got some type of information or knowledge from that source to help them out. Okay, so compared to a works cited where you're just supposed to list the items that you utilize. So we tell them, guys, anything that led you to something else, we're going to put down at first. So, but you don't have to have, you could probably cut back ours, especially at the mid-high level. You could cut it back because judges notice if you're padding your bibliography. So, and we make sure we're not padding. So eventually we'll take some out. You know, we'll look and okay, we don't need this one. We don't need, you know, there's some that repeat. But early on, we want them to do it. Why? So they get the practice. We want them to get the practice of citing, because the more practice they get, the better off they're going to be. So 50 by October 7th, 50 or more cited, at least one interview completed. Now that means that they've contacted somebody and interviewed them on their topic. Okay, and then the next one is complete an additional interview with the judge. I see some questions up here, Ellen, coming up. Should I try to answer some of those right now? Do you see some? I see some. Wait, I can't hear you. Sorry.
There are some questions on computers. So you can answer them now or whenever you're ready.
Okay, let me just finish this and then I'll look at those in case some more pop up. Okay, because I got about 5 more minutes here and then I can start answering those. Is that good?
Okay, great.
Okay, good.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay, so then that October 7th one, what I end up doing then is breaking it down specifically. So like, for instance, documentary will have at least 1 page of their script completed. Website will have a background on their website completed and all their tabs listed. An exhibit will have a detailed description of the design of the exhibit and all materials that they think they will need. A paper will have at least 1 page of their paper completed, obviously just a rough draft. And then the performances will have at least 1 page of their script completed. And then the general idea of items they need, their costumes, props, etc. Now, does this mean obviously, you know, that that's a finished product? No, we are going back and obviously editing extensively as we move on. But Ellen does have this whole sheet to, I guess, linked, so you guys can get the specific one that will take you right up to regionals. Okay. Now, just a couple other things before I answer questions. I made a few notes here. One of them we talked about with Ellen yesterday is what if kids don't make it to state? Say that you have it as a class and they don't make it to state. And I've been asked, what do we do with those kids? Well, what we do mainly is we turn them into basically, well, 2 things. One is like NHD Teacher Assistants. So what they're going to do is they're going to be like judges. So they're going to go around and literally they're going to drill a lot of the other participants in questions. And it's really good because kids sometimes are a little bit more blunt and they ask good questions to the other kids. And you know how it is with peers. Answering in front of peers is a little tougher sometimes. So yeah, we have them walk around and just start asking, so that even while they're working on their projects, these kids may be going around asking them questions, so they get used to that. They give suggestions, they help editing, like we'll give them the papers and they read them and see, you know, what do they see? Do they see something, whether it be grammatically or just something they don't understand? They look for mistakes. They help take care of materials, supplies. So they're basically like NHD teacher assistants. But that's not it. I don't want you to think like, you know, they're just mules here. We also start having them think ahead. So, I mean, right now we know what next year's theme basically is, unless, you know, sometimes they change it last minute. But we'll start, I may say, okay, by Friday, I want like 10 ideas that we could possibly use next year for next year's topic. All right, so they're researching, so they're already thinking a year ahead in late March. Okay, so you know, yeah, it's about 2 months, but in those 2 months, I could find a lot of things for them to do. the next thing that I have before I answer some questions, I just can't insinuate enough, if you don't have it as a class, if you're planning to do NHD and you don't have it as a class and you want to compete, please make sure they follow the timelines and have regular meetings. Don't think that you could meet with them like twice a month. You can't do that. I have like, I think 6 right now that are doing it that are not in my NHD class, and they have to meet with me twice a week. All right, and I just have a sign-in sheet. You know, some come in the morning, some come at lunch, some come after school right now, and they have a sign-in sheet. And the minute they don't meet with me twice a week, I'm on them, and I give them 1 warning, and then after that, it's like, guys, after this, you just can't do it anymore, because they'll fall too far behind. And if you'll find that if they really want to do it, they will be there. I would also recommend, though, you're going to have to be flexible. You're going to have to work around their schedule. You know, so that's why I tell them morning, lunch. I mean, after school, I could do it right now. Spring, that's a little tough for me when baseball starts. But, you know, and they do. They adjust. They're very flexible as well. So I would say give them regular meeting times, okay, and even work days. I would also throw that in. I don't have it listed on that link that you can get from Ellen, but we have probably once a month, we'll have a Saturday work day, or like we have a fall break here at Silver High School. And we'll have, during our fall break in October, we'll have like 2 work days. We'll have a work day over Thanksgiving break. We'll have a work day over Christmas break. Some of you guys are thinking, oh man, this is a lot of time, but you know what? You'll find kids will be there. And usually what we do is we just, you know, fit the majority. We say, okay, when can the majority be here and what time? And I think this is really important, because let me say this, kids will get more done in a 4 or 5 hour time period than they will 30 minutes a day. Because 30 minutes can turn into 10 minutes by the time they get materials out, items ready, quit talking, et cetera, and you have 10 minutes left. But they get a lot done on these work days. So please set some work days. You will find it very, very useful. Okay, so let me look at some of these questions here and see if I'm smart enough to answer them. I don't know. So what happens with your students' grades if they don't compete? Okay, so if they don't compete, what like the rubric that I talked about, I would just incorporate it with your regular, however you break down your classes. In other words, say you have them in a world history class and it's part of their grade. I think I would leave that up to you as far as, is it going to be, is the NHD project going to be 20% of your grade? Is it going to be 10% of their overall grade? I think really that's up to you. And if you want them to, obviously I think you would make it, you know, a higher amount, so they realize the importance of it, because if you put it a lot lower, they're not going to pay attention as much. So that's what I would do if they aren't going to compete. Now, maybe I'm misreading the question as well. We make all ours compete. Like, we tell them you're going to compete. So I would try to do that as well, especially if you're very close to a regional and you don't have to travel. Like for us, you know, it's still tough. You know, it's two hours away, and then to Albuquerque, you're looking in a bus about 5 hours. So, but I would still try to have them compete. Okay, one of the other, when do you start fundraising? Yes, we start fundraising right now. The candy bars we will receive Friday, and we're giving them each a box Friday, and they have like 2 weeks to sell them. And if they don't have the money sold in a couple weeks, we have an individual talk, let them know. I mean, they understand the importance, but we also tell them what this, and that's why it's good to have a parent meeting, so the parents know this money isn't going to waste. This is what it's going to, you know, travel, transportation, supplies, materials, and we even get them a shirt. We buy them each a shirt, which our shirts will be done here already in about a month, so they could start showing that at school. Another one, do students get credit? Yes, they get, at ours, they do. We have it as the NHD competition class. They get an elective credit. All right, so if they take it all year, they'll get one elective credit. So our school has bought in to National History Day, and it's been like this for, gosh, it's been like this for, I've had the class for like 5 years, I think, 5 or 6 years. Before that, though, before that, they still got credit. You know what our school did? And they made sure they talked to the state and approved it. If they met, like 1 week we would meet 3 days at lunch, and the next week we'd meet 2 days at lunch. It would just vary. And if they were there and we took attendance, we sent that attendance to the state. And if they got the required amount of hours, they also got credit. So you could do things like that. That's how I started it, until I sold everybody, hey, I have 30 some coming at lunch. I think it's deserving of a class. And then we got the class. So, and believe it or not, you guys, you're thinking, and Amy Page could vouch for this as well, because she has the same amount of numbers basically as I do. Guys, this year I have 53 students in the class, 53. And then I have, like I said, the 6 or 7 that are doing it outside of class. Let's see here, with the outline due mid-September, do you want an outline of the whole project? Good question. Yeah, early on we asked for a general outline of the whole project, but when I say the whole project, I mean just their topic. Okay, but it's a very general outline. You know, part of the job of NHD is obviously teaching outlines. It's amazing how many kids, I mean, I guess I'm giving my age away a little bit, but remember that we grew up with outlines. I mean, that was the standard. And now kids, you know, an outline, what's an outline? So we take about a day and go over what an outline should look like. And then they'll turn in, believe it or not, a very general outline, starting with their topic, their thesis. And matter of fact, Ellen, I'll send you a copy of ours that we use as well for our outline, so they can get it with the link also. But what we'll do then is, then after they give us that first rough draft of the outline, we'll give it back to them after a couple of days and say, no, we need more specifics here, here, and here. So it is a working outline for the first couple of weeks, okay? But it really gives kids a general idea of where they should be. Okay, let's see. Do you use graphic organizers? We use them a little bit, not as much as maybe some of the others. We've used them some. We basically rely on our outlines, on the timeline that I have, and we go in that manner, okay? Graphic organizer for exhibits, documentaries, performances, and I could break down a little bit. For our exhibits, what we do is we have, instead of like our graphic organizers, and you could say it's somewhat of a graphic organizer, we call it a dummy board, believe it or not. And we buy the small little, the small little like science boards, but the smaller ones, I don't even know what size, and we call them dummy boards. And they literally put together a small dummy board, and they just they either write on the dummy board or they paste on the dummy board their plan. And they'll each have like 2 or 3 they'll work through dummy boards before we actually get to the main board. And then, you know what's helpful as well is our past exhibits, we rip the felt off and we keep those and use them as dummy boards. So they're putting stuff on those boards as well, just to get an idea of what should be on there and what should not be on there. As far as our documentaries with graphic organizers, no, I'll tell you what we do with our documentaries, we treat it almost like a paper. Okay, and I think, you know, and I say this in a humble way, I think ours and Amy, I mean, thank God we excel quite a bit with the document. As a matter of fact, last year, right, Ellen, both ours and Amy's made finals. I mean, New Mexico had 2 out of the 10 in finals. But what we do is we treat it like a paper. We tell them, okay, you are going to write a script, but don't think of it as, you know, with your grammar or anything like that right now. Think of telling a story. Tell a story. So they do that, and it probably takes about a month to edit before we get it down to what we want in that script. And then next what we do is we time it. Okay, we time it. Now when we time it, we just go like a paragraph at a time, because you're not going to record a script the full 10 minutes. You're going to have to do that a little bit at a time. So we time it to make sure it's not over the 10 minutes. If it is, we cut back. Okay. And then eventually after we get that, boom, we record the documentary. Now I'll tell you a little trick here. I'm sort of giving some of the secrets away here, but that's right. If it helps people, it's better. When you record a documentary, make sure that you do it in one day. Don't start it and go to the next day or the next day, because you will learn that your voice changes and it will not sound the same the next day. So make sure you have a 3 to 4 or 5 hour time limit that you're going to get it done. With our performances, we treat it almost like the documentaries. They put a script together, and then we edit it, we take out, we put things in, and then we time it, and then we go from there. Okay, so that's how we go about the performances. So it's almost like a paper as well. They're writing a bit. That's the thing. They learn so many writing skills in all of these categories. That's what's pretty cool. Okay, if you're teaching one semester, is there enough time to do an NHD project? Yes, there is. Okay, are you going to have to be on the ball a little bit more? Yeah, you are. I won't lie. But just take what I turned in to Ellen when you look at it, and utilize that and put it into a semester. I would cut back probably on some with the bibliographies, and then I would just obviously shorten the time periods in between dates. But yes, it can be done. Because if you look at ours, we're basically looking at having stuff done in January already, because we have a parent night starting in January 23rd. So that's basically a semester. So yes, you can do it. Please don't be discouraged. Do not be discouraged if you're like, I only have a semester. You have enough time. Okay, another question it says here, if you have so many students competing, how do you decide who competes at regionals? Well, should I explain that, Ellen, or should you explain that, or what do you want me to do? You see that laugh?
Well, I can speak here just for a minute. What we ask, coordinating the contest, is that we have no more than 3 entries per category per school. So for instance, if you have five groups of students doing a group documentary, only 3 of those can compete at regionals. And what we're hoping to do, actually, since Claudie has so many students this year, is we're going to look for a way to bring more of those kids to regionals. We ask that the schools, that something happens at the schools. Some schools have school contests, so that the winners at the school contest can go on to compete at regionals. Some students self-select, so that some students aren't ready to compete, they're not willing to compete, they're not enthusiastic about competing, and so they can select out of competing at regionals. What do you all do, Claudie?
Well, yeah, that's how, we do it now. Like, we know, and maybe others don't know in our area, with, trying to get more, let me word this correctly, trying to get more schools competing at our regional, because we used to be the largest regional. So we will break down, let me just say this. Our kids aren't going to go to regional if it's not a good project, and they know that. But that's what's so good about competition, is that every one of our projects, they know that they're getting competition just from their classmates. So they're going to make sure they have a good product to put to go to regionals. Okay. So, and then Ellen and I, we've spoken, obviously, if we get a lot more schools at our Cruces regional, obviously we'll have to have a local competition. But that's then when I'll work with Alan, and we'll work together on how we should go about that, judges, where to do it, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that answers that question. What does it say here? There's another question, Ellen. How much does your school spend on NHD every year? Okay, so good. That's a good question. And you know what? That's where a lot of teachers are like, there's no way I can do it. It's too much money. Okay, early on when we first, and this is why, if you're just beginning, let me give you a little tip here. If you're just beginning, and I don't mean to cut kids out, but I think it's important. I wouldn't start with a large group if you're just starting. I would, and again, I'm not being mean towards some kids, but I think it's beneficial for you as a teacher. I would start with some kids you know are really responsible, that are going to work hard, because if it's your first year, you're going to see how much time it takes from you as a teacher, but it's rewarding time. It's very rewarding. So I would maybe, 8 to 10 students, get a good feel for it that year, and try to have try to compete and at least have someone in each category. Because if you don't have people competing in each category, you're not gonna learn as a teacher. So I would start with small numbers. Then when you get familiar with how the whole process works, I would start gaining in students. So to go back to that question, how much does our school spend? Early on, when I first started with a small group, they didn't spend anything. I told them, okay, if I can do this and I could raise the money, will you look into eventually helping? I mean, basically, I had to do a sell job. So we raised our own money. Like I said, we just used Suburbans because I had a small group. We took Suburbans to regionals. We started doing really well, took Suburbans to state, to Albuquerque. And we went from my very first year, 9-10 years ago, whatever it is, we started with 5 kids. That's it, 5 kids. Well, after a couple of years, 5 kids went to 15 to 20, and then our school saw the interest. So then I told them, okay, how can you help us? So our school this year, this is what they've done in the past, because they've seen the benefits. And you could talk to our principal. He will sell you on NHD. They pay, when we go, like next week, we're going to New Mexico State for a work day. They will pay our bus. They'll pay the mileage and the bus driver. We pay their meals. Okay, so out of our fundraising, I'll pay the kids' meals there. And it's just one meal. I tell them, you take a sack lunch, we'll pay just a burger on our way back. When we go to regionals, our school will pay, they will pay the trip over there, the bus trip over there. We pay their meals. All right, when we go to Albuquerque, and this is where I'm blessed, and this is where you're really going to have to be smart about things. It would be too difficult for us to go to Albuquerque and leave like 3 in the morning and get there, by 8, and then turn around and come back, because our bus drivers have that 15-hour window. So we're fortunate that our school sends us the day before. So the day before to Albuquerque, the school will pay our hotels, and they pay our hotels, and they pay our gas mileage in the bus. We pay their meals. So we pay the kids' meals on the Thursday night, and we pay their meals on Friday night. Okay. So estimation, I mean, you're looking at our school paying, it just varies, probably 1,000, maybe a little bit more. Okay, except the big trip to Albuquerque. But remember, Ellen, as well, and you could speak on behalf of you guys, give the what is it, 250? Is it 250? Yeah, to help out with some of those, right? I don't know if we're still doing that.
So the Humanities Council, and this is certainly going to be the case this year. Who knows with the budget uncertainty what will be happening next year. Yeah. The Humanities Council does offer stipends or support for transportation to the regional contests of up to $300 per school. And that money can be used on buses, it can be used for substitutes, lodging, it can be used for whatever your students need to participate in these contests.
And like I said early on, what I did as well is I was upfront with the parents. I said, you know what, we're going to fundraise, but can you help out monetarily early on? I mean, and I just sold them on the benefits. I just told them, this is what your child will get out of this. Can you give you know, $25. And between, you know, all the parents with the school helping a little bit, our fundraising, we were able to make it, you know, and then it just grows. It really, once, I guarantee you, once your school sees the benefit, I guarantee you, they will help you out, because I mean, NHD by far is probably the best program I've ever been a part of. And it just, I mean, the skills that they learn, there's nothing that can compare to it, nothing. And that's even with kids that I have like an AP English, you know, AP Histories. I mean, they will say the one that they learned the most from was National History Day. So if you just sell the kid, I guarantee you, if you go to the NHD site, they have that 3 or 4 or 5 minute video on what NHD encompasses with all the kids. You show that to your parents, and I guarantee you the parents are like, wow, because parents, they want the best for their kids, and they want them to, you know, to get that good education. So NHD is an easy sell, I think. It's an easy sell. So yeah, don't let the money scare you away a bit. You just have to find a way. And like I say, Friday I give out candy bars, and in 1 month I'll have $1,500, because what kid does not like candy bars? You know what I mean? And kids, they will buy them. It's the easiest fun. I'm giving everybody the scoop. Easiest. I ought to be, maybe World's Finest Chocolate ought to pay me for telling, you know, everybody. And actually the regional vendor is right there in Albuquerque for World's Finest Chocolate. I can't hear you, Ellen. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I'll add here that there are a couple of other teachers who do similar fundraising, not with the World's Finest Chocolate, but just with any kind of candy, and they'll just sell it from their desk to whatever students want it throughout the year. Mm-hmm. And Luisa Castillo at West Mesa High School does fundraising like that, and is able to raise enough funds to bring her kids to nationals and to pay for things that you were talking about, exhibit boards and supplies for developing the projects out to the content.
And also, you guys have another one. The Humanities Council has the Chautauquas, the Chautauqua speakers, and we use them. We did, for my first 4 years, I think, we had Chautauqua. So if you're not familiar, just go to the Humanities Council site and go to the Chautauquas, and we sold tickets. I think we sold them for like $10 or $15 to the whole community. And man, we had excellent turnouts to those. So we made good money there as well. So there are ways. You just have to improvise and be flexible.
And I'll speak real briefly about the Chautauquas as well. You can go to the Humanities Council website and click on the Chautauqua programs with speakers catalog. You can request a Chautauqua and then just put in your notes for the request that it's a National History Day fundraiser. And we will waive all the fees for your school to book the Chautauqua. I know Farmington High School is having a fundraiser coming up in a couple of weeks with Cipriano Vigil, who'll be performing some music and talking about ritual and traditions of northern New Mexico. So it sounds like it's going to be a really fun time. And all the proceeds from that can go to support the History Day program.
Yep.
And Claudie, we just have a couple minutes left. Is there anything you wanted to wrap up with?
No, other than, like I said, I think the most important part is just have that timeline. Make sure the kids understand the timeline. As a teacher, please don't slack on the timeline, because you will fall behind. And then you can feel free, please, to email me at any time. I think, do they have my email, or should I say it?
I can post it.
Okay, so you could just get it. Please do not be afraid to email me. I will give me a day or so, and I promise you I will get back. Even if you can put my my cell number too, Ellen, if possible you have it. So just call me, leave a message, and I just encourage you. We want as many schools as possible competing, and if not competing, having these kids have the opportunity to do it in classroom. You know, this is my 27th year teaching, and like I said, I've never come across a better program in any area: math, science, English. I guess I'm biased towards history, obviously, but But that's all I have. Please do not be afraid to get a hold of me. And that's
All
it.
right, and I went ahead and posted all those links on the YouTube page. So there's the link to Claudie's schedule, which I'm going to say from experience is invaluable for keeping yourself and your students on track. There's a link to some other classroom resources for teachers for History Day. And I did go ahead and post the email address for Claudie. So if you have any questions for him directly, go ahead and email him, because he doesn't have anything else to do with 50 students and baseball and everything else.
That's fine.
And you're also, I'd encourage you to email me at historyday@nmhum.org. And thanks for tuning in today. And the next one again is September 13th. We're going to be talking about choosing categories and topics. So for what it's worth, we are sort of running on Claudie's schedule. So if you're trying to work along on the same schedule, hopefully we'll be getting you some just-in-time information there. Thank you so much for joining us today, Claudie. We really are glad, and thank your tech people for getting you online.
Yeah, all right. Thank you too.
All right. Have a great evening.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.